Well,
Okay.
yes, because pirates. uh,
Wore eye patches? Is this the direction we're going here?
Yes!
What's going on?
Yes, because yes, I know a reason why they wore eye patches.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a science teacher.
I'm Cheryl, and I slept through science.
Each episode will tackle a science question you may have learned in school, but can't quite remember or fully explain.
And I'll take the risk of asking the dumb questions so that we can all understand the science we slept through.
The bell has rung. Let's get started. Welcome to Lesson 52. We are starting a new unit on listener questions.
Yay! I'm excited.
Yeah. What tell us more about this unit, Cheryl?
Well, over our first year of this podcast, we occasionally get questions from our listeners about, their own science questions that they have from moments where they slept through science. And so it's going to be pretty fun that I'm not the only one who doesn't know all the things about science, and that we have our community of listeners sharing those questions with us. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. So who do we have doing our first listener question today?
Our first listener question is from my sister, Lisa, which is so fun. My two sisters are two of our most faithful listeners, and they both came up with a science question for us. So this week we're doing Lisa's question.
Wonderful. Let's hear it.
Hi, this is Cheryl's sister, Lisa. My question is about eyesight. So as a kid growing up who had bad vision and loved to read, I was always told not to read in dim light or after I was supposed to be asleep. And now as an adult, I'm not sure if that is based on a myth, old wives' tale, or if it's true, that my eyesight would get worse if I read in dim light. And if it is true, I'm curious about why it's true. And if it's not true, why did we think it was true? Thanks, guys.
Yay, Lisa!
Yay, that was a great question.
I know, and I absolutely remember that from my childhood, so I know
You
totally
heard
what
it a
she's
lot?
talking about that. And I have actually said that to my stepson as well. So this is something that I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get into the pre-assessment then. So
Okay.
do you believe that it's true, I guess, is the first
Yeah.
thing. So I was talking about that.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. If you read in dim light, your eyesight will get worse.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think that happens?
Gosh. Well, okay, I think it's that when you have to strain your eyes, if you do that a lot, then it makes your eyesight worse. Now that I say it like that, it sounds so fake though. That's so funny because I will even when I'm cooking or doing things around the house, not so much if I'm like sitting and watching something, or I don't know, I guess then the TV screen's on, so whatever. But like if I'm like up and doing things, my husband will be like, "Why do you have so many lights on?" And I'm like, I like more lights on if I'm up and about in my home. But then also I'm like, well, it's better for my vision anyway. And so that's kind of my little defense that I have there as well, which is really funny because now I'm like, is that true? But I mean, we do know like screens put a strain on your eyes, which I guess would be the opposite. It's like so much light puts a strain on, or I don't even know if it's a strain, and I don't know if it's permanent or if it's like just if you spend a lot of your day that your eyes need a break from it. I also know I'm going to do a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I think it's, all about things that affect your eyesight, that like before bed, there are now people who try to like, they'll wear those glasses that block. It's not UV.
It's blue.
It's blue light.
Yeah, the blue light filters.
Yes.
Yeah, the glasses are usually red colored.
And I've heard that's about, because like if your brain has a lot of light, then it thinks it's time to be awake. And so you don't want a lot of light before bed and screens before bed are a lot of light and things that are telling your brain to stay awake. And that feels like different but related in a way, because it's about light in our eyes. But that's more
Okay.
about what it's telling your brain. As far as like something actually making your eyes worse, I don't know, like, does anything make your eyes worse, or is your vision
Mm.
going bad just going to be what it is? Like, and you could
Mm.
live your life any way you wanted, and it doesn't matter. Your vision's going to be whatever it's going to be throughout your life. Or if you get the right, like, glasses prescription, is it going to slow down your vision
Mm-hmm.
getting bad? Or if you don't read in dim lighting, is it going to slow down your vision getting bad, or things like that? Or if you work in a computer all day, is that going to increase your vision getting bad?
Mm.
Like, are these, can we even, to me, I mean, Lisa had her question. To me, the bigger question would be, can anything we ever do in life really affect long term affect our
Mm.
vision? Well,
Okay.
yes, because pirates. uh,
Wore eye patches? Is this the direction we're going here? What's going on?
yes, because yes, I know a reason why they wore eye patches was because my dad read it in this book about it was either called the longitude problem or the latitude problem. It was
Oh,
for
uh-huh.
sailors. They
Yes.
were able to get the latitude but not the longitude or something.
Correct.
Which one would the sun being at noon tell you?
Which one would the sun being at noon
Like the
tell you?
position of the sun and what when it's, I don't
Oh,
know.
that you could use that to figure out your latitude.
Okay, great. So I think what my dad told me he read in this book was that sailors could not figure out, needed to know when it was noon in order to figure out their latitude. And so like a beginner's job on a ship would be to look at the sun for a long, long, long time until it was noon. And so then they would just do it with one eye, and then eventually that eye would go bad and they'd wear an eye patch and then move on to a different role on the
Oh,
ship.
really?
Yeah.
I've not heard that part before.
Yeah. I believe it because my dad told me, and he knows things
And
that are well
but he
researched.
does a lot of research. Yeah, he'll
Yes.
research
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Mhm. But that means that, like, in that case, if you stare, that's the opposite thing as far as dim lighting is if
Uh-huh.
you stare at the sun a lot, that is bad for your eyes, and that is
Yeah.
long term bad for your eyes. Okay. So in that case, you can do things to change your eyesight,
Yep.
but is dim lighting and reading and dim lighting one of them?
Is that one of them? I want to come
Mhm.
back to one other thing. You talked about straining your eyes. You used that term several
Yes.
times.
Yeah.
What do you think that means? And what do you think is actually happening in your eye if it is strained?
Ooh, that's a really good question. To me, I felt like my eyes felt strained um during COVID when a lot of the meetings I was in at work were on Zoom. And at the end of a
Mm.
lot of Zoom meetings, my eyes would feel so tired, which is weird because I still work at a computer all day long. But something about Zoom meetings was doing something different to my eyes. And I think it was the way I was following faces and the way I was looking at the screen as opposed to like reading my email or looking at a spreadsheet on my screen. I think there was something that was happening during a lot of like talking to a person on a screen that
Mm.
really like made my eyes feel tired. So I don't know if that was with my eye movement or what that was different.
Okay.
But then as far as like being strained, yeah, I think just staring at light for a while,
Mm.
like your eyes are, they just need a break from that probably. But I don't know if straining, is it just your eye telling you like stop doing that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know what's happening other than it's, I don't think it's good for our eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've talked about a lot of things as far as too much light
Mm-hmm.
And it does seem like too much light can be a problem in some
Yeah.
form. At least you think so, as of this
Yeah.
writing.
Uh-huh.
So do you still think that dim light is an issue? And I'm not asking because I'm trying to direct your thinking. I'm just
Yes.
wondering because I've heard you
Yes.
mention several other things that you didn't initially think about. And so I'm wondering, do you still think the same thing, which is fine if you do, or have you convinced yourself of something different?
I still think the same because I think it
Okay.
might also be a form of straining in that you are trying to focus on these small words on a page
Mm-hmm.
that are not lit up very well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I think what you're doing to your eyes is like, I don't know if it's long-term effects, but it might be
Mm-hmm.
the same as looking at a computer where then you're going to feel strained or feel like you
Mm-hmm.
need a break from it. But is that just one of those things because I've gone through my whole life believing this? And so now I'm like, no, it makes sense. It's definitely true. I don't know. I'm so interested to learn about this.
What would you say your confidence level is in it being true?
I'm going to go 85%.
Okay. So still
Yeah.
so pretty high. Okay.
Yeah, I still feel pretty confident about it.
I have some good news and some bad news for you, Cheryl. Which would you like first?
Well, I'm going to guess that the good and the bad news is that reading in poor light is bad for your eyesight, but also my job is bad for my eyesight, and that everything we do in life is bad for our eyesight.
No.
Oh, okay.
So which would you like first, the good news or the bad news?
I want the bad news first.
Okay. The bad news is you're incorrect.
Okay.
And it is actually a myth that reading in dim light can make your eyesight worse. It is a complete myth. But the good news is it's a myth, which means
Great.
you don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's amazing. I can stop telling my stepson that, so I feel good about that. And Lisa can tell our mom that she was right, and that will make Lisa really happy too.
Oh boy,
so.
that will make her happy. I don't know that that would go over as well with your mom, but okay. And we could just leave it at that, but I'm guessing you want to know a little bit more about the whys.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Reading in dim light can cause your eyes to feel uncomfortable. If it's really dim light, what that does is it means oftentimes your eyes have to work a little bit harder to focus on what you're reading. And anytime your eyes are working harder, you often feel that, and that leads to the other thing that you talked about, eye strain. Or sometimes it's also referred to as eye fatigue. Those technically might be different things. And if they are, and if whoever's listening knows the difference, I apologize. But in my understanding, they are essentially the same thing. But there's a difference I'm just unaware of. But your eyes can get tired from doing something over and over and over again, or from intensely trying to do something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
There aren't any long-term effects of it. So yes, you can feel it in your eyes, but giving your eyes a rest or a break usually can relieve that. You talked about the Zoom era when you were on Zoom meetings all the time and how your eyes just got really, really strained or fatigued. And that's a real thing. That definitely does happen. But the reason is actually, as far as we can tell, not related to the light. It's related to what your eyes are doing or actually not doing. Specifically, they don't blink as often.
What?
Yeah. So according to one article, and all these will be linked in our description, we normally blink about 15 to 20 times per minute. And the purpose of that is to get tears or like water liquid over your eyes to keep them moist and all of those things. And of course, now as I've been reading this, I've been very aware of my eyes. And so I'm blinking a lot and I'm feeling my eyes. And I apologize to all our listeners who are now also feeling their eyes really intently. But I definitely am. It's just like anything when you don't think about it and then you start thinking about a thing and then you just notice it everywhere.
I feel like I'm blinking a lot more than I normally do, but I think it's probably just that I'm so aware of every time I blink right now.
Yeah. But anytime when you read, you blink less also, generally,
Oh, okay.
because you're just intensely focusing on a thing. So that's a big part of it. Also with screens is there tends to be less of a clear contrast. And even though you can have like black text on a white screen, it's generally fuzzier edges. They're less sharp than when you've got an actual printed piece of paper. And then one thing that I didn't directly read in the articles that I found, but I think is probably related, because a lot of the recommendations is that every 20 minutes or so, you look away from the screen and look at other things. But I think the fact that, because you specifically talked about meetings with people, so not the reading so much on a screen, but you're not changing your focus because the distance between you and the thing, so your eyes are maintaining the exact level of focus, and they're trying to, and again, I'm reading into this and I think it's probably more complicated than this, and this actually might be completely wrong as far as the reason, but the way our eyes focus is there's a lens. It's an actual physical lens that gets stretched and relaxed, like it actually gets pulled and changes the shape of the lens so that we can focus at different distances away. And so if you're trying to maintain the exact same focus, our eyes don't usually do that. They usually change focus a lot. So our eyes are used to changing that focus and stretching and relaxing and stretching and relaxing. And you're not doing that when you're staring at a screen for a long time.
Or when you're reading.
So again, I didn't read that. So I'm making a hypothesis that could be incorrect. But again, because a lot of the recommendations are take a break and look at other things, I think that is a factor. It also makes sense, at least to me, that what you talked about is you work on a screen all the time, but you don't get the strain that you do when you're in a meeting. And I think that's probably because, yes, you're working on a screen, but you're also probably looking back and forth. And if there's a person, you're looking away. You might be looking down at your keyboard, looking at a piece of paper, looking back. So you are changing that focus in a way that you're not when you're trying to look at a person while you're on a screen. So again, that's a hypothesis of mine. I didn't find research to back that up, but I think that is a reasonable hypothesis. Now, again, I could totally be wrong, but so that's kind of your little tangent there about how does that work with screens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's going on. So dim light does not have any long-term effects on our eyesight. You don't have to worry about that. But that doesn't mean it doesn't make your eyes uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
And they might have to work harder.
I could see for a kid, I think there's a lot of things that adults would find uncomfortable. The kids are like, and
that's true. That's true.
I think that might be part of it. And I could see why that myth would come about if it causes like temporary distress on your eyes. That you're like, well, this can't be good.
Yep. And one of the things that I've definitely noticed as I've gotten older is when I'm looking down like at my phone for a longer period of time and then I look up, it takes me longer to adjust that focus than it used to. And so I do think that I think that it's just age. And one of the other articles that I read that I'll link in the description talked about a couple of studies that were done, one of which showed that they estimated around 80% of poor eyesight seems to come from genetics.
Okay.
As opposed
so it kind of like is what it is.
It kind of is what it is. And over time, our eyes, again, they're focusing all the time back and forth and making adjustments and things. As we age, they just don't do it as well anymore. And then there's other things, you can get, cataracts or glaucoma. Like there's all sorts of things that can happen in your eyes as well that just over time, just like anything, the more you use a thing, the more worn it gets. And that's true about our eyes as well, which is why like in my family, we have pretty good eyesight. My dad didn't need glasses until, I think he was in his 50s, maybe, when he first started to need glasses. My mom's had glasses since elementary school, but me and my two sisters, none of the three of us need glasses still. And I'm 40 and I don't need, I still don't need glasses. It will probably happen at some point because my eyes will just get old enough that I'll need them. But that seems to be a genetics thing more than anything else. So
interesting. So I wonder if part of why people believe that too was anecdotal evidence,
Mm-hmm.
which is your favorite thing
It
of
is.
anything that people try to prove scientifically, I'm pretty sure. Because I could see like, oh, your aunt so-and-so always read with dim lighting and now her
Mm-hmm.
eyes are bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe whatever she was going to do in her life, her eyes are still going to be
Right.
bad.
Yep. And that is both why science is important, because it helps us control for those things, but also that's actually where science originated, was making observations and looking for patterns. And
Interesting.
so I don't see that all as a terrible thing in and of itself, because that's where you have to start somewhere, and you have to start with what patterns you observe and that you can see.
Mhm.
But then to really have it be science, you have to be able to test that and, control for different variables and things. And with humans, that's often hard. It can be hard to really isolate things. That's why it said they estimated 80% of eyesight is from genetics. But do they how do you really do that? And it's really difficult. You have to do like twin studies and things. And even then, well, how do you know that if they weren't raised in the same household, how do you know it wasn't patterns that the parents had done, things like that
Yeah.
can make it a little bit more challenging. But that's why we do science, so we can learn these things and know them. Now it's time to see if you learned what we needed to. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you're just blinking so fast. A little bit was fine, and then it crossed that threshold into creepy, Cheryl.
That was so funny because I was trying to figure out if it was coming through, like if you were noticing on the screen, and it was
Oh,
like, oh,
yes.
you were just trying to ignore it at first.
I was just trying to ignore it at first, and it just kept going. It's like, I can't anymore. I just can't. Anyway, it's time for your quiz.
All right.
Okay. First question. It's going to be a really hard one. Are you ready?
Yes.
Can reading in dim light cause bad eyesight?
No.
Look at that. A+.
Oh, I missed the jingle bells now.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We need like a ding or something.
Oh, okay. I'll work on that. We'll see what we can find. If reading in dim light doesn't cause bad eyesight, what does?
Mainly genetics and being a pirate.
Yes, those two things, genetics and piratism,
Yes.
because that's also a word. What causes eye strain?
Eye strain is caused by blinking less
Mhm.
and looking at something that's the same distance from you for a long period of time and focusing heavily with your eyes.
Yeah, all three of those
Does that
things
feel
can
like
lead
a
to eye
complete?
strain.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
You're like, do I need to add more things to get full credit? No,
In
that's great.
conclusion.
What can you do to avoid or relieve eye strain?
Well, proper lighting probably does help that,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's small text, or looking away periodically, just taking a break from what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You passed with flying colors.
Yay.
All right, I think that's all we've got for this question. So why don't you go ahead and pack up your stuff and get ready for my closing remarks. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at I Slept Through Science, or on Twitter at Slept Science.
If you have dumb science questions like I do, please send them to us. You can email us at isleptthroughscience@gmail.com, or you can even send us a voice memo and we'll play it on the podcast.
Please rate and review our podcast to tell other people what you think about it, subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode, and share about our podcast on social media.
Thank you to Beth Reed Miller for the artwork. You can check out more of Beth's artwork at Beth Is Something. Okay, great. Thanks. Bye.
The bell doesn't dismiss you. I dismiss you.